Alright, it's been a long time coming. A lot of people have been asking. I've been meaning to make this video for a long time, but you know, at the end of the day, I still farm, so sometimes I just have to farm. Anyways, today we are gonna get into the Jang cedar. This puppy right here, in my opinion, it's the best cedar on the market. Offers the most amount of versatility as far as how you plant, how you prep your beds. Also has the most diversity of seed densities, and I think it's a robust tool. It's really good for the money. It's basically the best thing out there that I've ever seen. So we're gonna get into all of that, what rollers I use for it, how I use them, some of the advantages and maybe some of the disadvantages of this tool. That's coming up next on The Urban Farmer. Okay, this is the Jang. So first thing that I really like about this tool is it's heavy. I like that because because it's heavy, it stays steady often. If you've ever used the Earthway cedar, it's super light, and when you're pushing it, it has a tendency to kind of stray. It's kind of like a really lightweight bike opposed to a heavier bike. Like maybe compare the solidness of a BMX to a good sturdy road bike. BMX is kind of light, nimble, moves around, where a good road bike, a touring bike, is kind of steady and straight. And that's the difference I find that's the first difference I find between this and the Earthway. The other thing that I really like about this tool is the hopper comes off. So the beauty of that is when you're out in the field, you can just leave this out wherever you are, go back to your seeds, fill your seeds in the hopper, change your roller, I'll talk about that in a second, and then bring that back. You don't have to carry this back and forth to your spot. The other thing that I like about it is it's got a chain system. So on this thing, I can do it while trying to stand still here in the tripod shot. You can change the gearing on this tool almost like you can change gears on a bike. In fact, it's just the same. So this comes off and you've got a gearing mechanism where you can change the front and rear gear just like on a bike, and that'll give you a different density. And it's got a legend on it here that tells you what gears you should use to achieve what density with each roller. So that's super practical. I have kept mine the same. It's 14 on the front and 9 on the back. I don't change it, and that's mainly because I do a limited crop selection, as you guys know if you follow my stuff. When my farm was 2 acres and we were using this to do a lot different stuff, like even say rapini, broccoli, and so on and so forth, then I would change the gears. But because I mostly use this to seed root crops and greens, I keep it at 14 and 9. That's the name of the gear ratios. Let's talk about the hopper. So the really cool thing about this hopper, like I said before, it comes off, which is very advantageous, has a lid on it so your seed doesn't spill. You can plant in the rain, and the hopper holds a lot of seed. If you're doing like 200-foot beds, 500-foot beds, whatever, you can also get a bigger hopper so you can hold more seed. I never really have to even fill this to the top with the amount of planting I do. So it works, this hopper works very well for my needs. So the really cool thing about this tool is you open it up, and this is why it's so much better than the Earthway cedar, is these are these rollers. They go in, they have little divots in them, you can see there, and that moves against a brush. So seed from the top is just gravity wants it to make it go down. It goes through these little depressions in the roller, and then that drops the amount of seed you want. So there's different types of rollers. In my book, I list all the crops that I do and what roller I use for each crop at what rows I plant. So we're not gonna have time to talk about all of that today, but I will tell you what rollers I do use. And so this F24 roll, so this, I guess the F represents the size of the hole in it, and the 24 represents the amount of holes. I use this roller for all of my radish planting. And I don't think I use it for anything else but radishes. I could be wrong. Fortunately, what I do is I always have with me a little tote that contains the most common seeds I plant on a weekly basis. So that's like radishes, arugula, red Russian kale, mustard greens, Tokyo turnips or Hakurei salad turnips. Those the things that I plant constantly, I always have in this bin. I keep my rollers in it, and I have a little legend taped to the top of the lid that tells me what the densities of the crops I'm planting. In my book, all that's listed. So if you guys have my book, you already have this. This is exactly the same thing. So, you know, if I'm gonna plant a bed of radishes, I might look at the chart. I know it by now off by heart, but I might look at the chart and go, okay, I need the F24. So that's, the F24 is the one I use a lot of. This one is the X24. It's just a slightly smaller hole. And I use this one for turnips. And I use this for mustards and red Russian kale, I believe. This one, the XY24, it has little depressions that look like little crosses. I use that for planting carrots. This one here is the YYJ24. Smaller holes, but 24 of them. I use that for planting arugula. I think that's it. And then this one is the G12. It has big holes in it. I use that for planting cilantro. That's all I use it for. So I still today have not found a Jang roller that I like for planting spinach and beets. I still use the Earthway for those. I'm sure there is a roller that can do those well. I just haven't found it yet. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts if you've tried it before. I used to use this one called the MJ24. I no longer use it. And I even drilled, I made the holes a bit bigger. I tried to make that one do beets and spinach. I find that the seeds get stuck. They don't exit the hole very well. Maybe a bit more engineering could fix that problem, but I haven't figured it out yet. The thing that you can do with the Jang that's really cool is you can order like a roller from them that doesn't have any holes in it, and you can make your own holes. So there's always potential to modify this. I've also seen people take 3D printers and make these rollers themselves. So with that, the amount of open innovation that's possible with this tool is pretty huge. That's one thing that I really like about it. So if you are in Canada or the US, the best place I've seen to buy this tool is a company called Dubois. They are out of Canada. So for Canadians, it's the go-to. And for Americans as well, the price is very competitive because your guys' dollar is so much higher than ours right now. You can save a ton of bucks by getting it from Dubois, a Canadian company. So the Jang is actually a Korean-made tool. There's some interesting stories about it. I've heard that it was made by the South Korean military. I don't know why. I could be totally off base there, but that's just what I heard. Very well made. And the thing that I like about it the most is that you can literally run up and down the beds with it, and you don't have to have the perfect bed prep. The biggest thing, the biggest criticism I have for the other seeders called the 4-point seeder and the 6-point seeder is you really have to have a perfectly level bed in order to get good germination or good seeding. If you don't, the furrow, the bit that makes the furrow that the seed goes in, if it encounters depressions, like higher or lower, you get inconsistent seed dropping and sometimes bad germination. The Jang, it's got a great, so this is the furrow, this thing makes a furrow, and then this bit here pushes the dirt over the furrow as it's made, and it can vary. It's spring loaded, so it moves. I've had this thing for 5 years now, still solid. So the point I'm trying to make with that is that you don't have to have perfect beds. You can just kind of make them as good as you want them and then rip this thing up and down the beds. I'm gonna plant and I'm gonna show you how fast I can seed. I can literally run up and down the beds, opposed to the 6-point and 4-point seeder. You can't do that. You have to go very slow and carefully. This thing I can run, and I'm gonna show you exactly how I do that. Okay, the one thing you want to do when you're starting to plant with the jang is you want to make sure that the sprockets of the roller are lined up to the chain, because I've done it before, and this is why I'm saying it, is you might just throw it in and you won't notice that it's not turning, and then you go and seed a bed, and then a week later you go, how come nothing came up? Well, just make sure before you start running it that that is turning with the wheel. So you can see the action here. The wheel turns, that turns the chain, which turns the roller and drops your seed. So when I throw it down on the ground, I just spin my wheel and make sure seed's dropping out, and then I put it down and I just make sure that I'm dropping seed, because if you're not, then you're not gonna seed your bed. So that's the jang, you guys. Check out, I have the link below to where you can get it. So Dubois out of Canada sells it, and again, they do ship to the US, and it's probably a better deal than you'll get anywhere else. Links below. Check it out. Put any questions and comments you have about the jang below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And yeah, good luck, happy planting. All right, see you soon.